Greetings, Angus Bayley. Nice to see you here at the Stables, Milton, Keynes. As an introduction to the wider public, why the name Scrapbook?
So the reason that the band is called Scrapbook is that I spent a lot of time working on my compositions and music before I actually got a band together. And in a way, I kind of put off putting a band together because I really wanted the music to be in a point where I could not fault it in any way, which in a way is like a bit of a naive young person's mistake, but not that that's had any severe repercussions. But at the point, I think being one of the main reasons for that is that I was quite obsessed with the idea that that it should be really quite perfect. I think that's partly because actually I don't know why that was, but I'm just gonna continue explain that. So I put off the music, putting a band together with this music for a while, and at the time that I decided that I wanted to put a band together, I think that it had been a long time coming, and it was probably got to the point where I probably should have already started a band because the music was pretty much ready. But I thought there were a few things in the music which actually seemed to be imperfections, but in fact I managed to reason to myself were actually only things that I could see because I'd been looking at this music for a really long time. I mean, this is a typical thing that composers go through, and artists of a lot of different types. You're your own worst critic, in a way. And in a kind of homage to that, I called it Scrapbook, as if it was an incomplete thing, which is actually not reflective of the actual project itself. It's kind of like tongue-in-cheek, but that's why it's called Scrapbook.
I understand that you trained as a scientist.
Yeah, that's right.
To use an extreme comparison, was it a case of Bruce Banner versus the Hulk with regards to which one of your personalities won out?
That is quite an extreme comparison. I agree with you on that. I don't think that actually one personality has won out. I think that actually these things are very related, and and in fact, I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. There's a lot of people that have drawn parallels between the way that you think when you approach something like physics and the way that you approach when you approach a more sophisticated type of music like jazz. And there's plenty of precedent for people who have actually done both and done both quite well. And I wouldn't say anything that's not along the lines of people who have reasoned that way before. So I think that actually me training as a scientist, there's a very genuine interest in that, and me training as an engineer, a very genuine interest in that. I think that you can do really creative things with science and engineering, which can have really amazing results, which are both on a practically very useful sense, but also in a beautiful because of the creativity involved sense. And that, it's the latter part of that is certainly pretty much the entire point of music. So I don't think it's a case of two conflicting personalities.
Okay. I must commend you on your debut album.
Thank you very much.
And the compositions therein, which seem to envelop the listener from the first note to the last in a warm and secure musical comfort blanket. Was it an enjoyable writing process?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I would say that the writing process is a mix of moments of quite a lot of difficulty, and then moments of really sheer joy. So for some songs, like the song "Rioter," which is the slowest tune on the album, that was an example of the latter. It was a very, very organic, simple and very quick writing process. Just came together in a very natural way. And then other songs have taken quite a long time to get to the point where I thought that they were ready for this project. I should probably say that for every song in this album, I have like quite a strict bar of what the music should be for it to have made it onto this album. And over the years, I mean, it's about an 8-year writing process for this album. I've come up with a bunch of songs, many more than that are on this album, and plenty of which didn't make that bar. I think that each song should be like fundamentally original in a kind of theoretical way, but then maintaining like a dedication to the fact that music should be really beautiful.
The album has a freshness and an optimism to it, which is not only a testament to your writing, but also to the interpretation and understanding of your compositions by the musicians who no doubt you've played together with for an extended period of time. Has Scrapbook had the same lineup since its inception in 2013? And please give us some background on each member. So no, it's not. It should be noted actually that the very first inkling of what Scrapbook became happened in 2011. It's like a chance meeting of a few of us who are now in the band on a college big band trip to Poland. And then it was only 2013 where I actually got all of my music together and did one single set of only my music with a band that I put together, which was the first official version of Scrapbook. But yeah, there's been a bunch of personnel changes since 2013. Most notably, there's been there used to be saxophone players in the band. It used to be a traditional jazz septet lineup, but I actually think that didn't suit the music quite right. There are quite a lot of there's quite a lot of precedent for a jazz septet of that type, and lended itself to playing the music in a way which I don't think is exactly what I had in mind. Specifically, the music that I've written is mostly very, very quiet compared to a usual jazz band, and it's more like slow burner, thoughtful, and quiet. And I think that having strings, whilst in the lineup, which is a change that was made only last year, at the beginning of last year, to the lineup. That was one that was made specifically to emphasise those properties of the music. So make it. One thing about having strings is that they are quieter. So all the other musicians, to get to the correct balance of the music, have to play quieter. So it's like a nice reminder for everyone, myself included, that of what the dynamics of it should be. And then the second thing is that strings just sound really beautiful for this kind of chordal, deep, rich harmonic music. So that was an important change. The main change is that switch from extra saxophones to strings. Okay, and like I said, can you give us a background on the band members? Yeah. So back at the very beginning of the band, we had Zoot Warren on drums, who's not in the band right now, and he's this great drummer who's the son of the well-known Welsh pianist Hugh Warren. We had the two saxophone players from Trinity College of Music, Max Johnson, Michael Underwood, who are really gifted musicians. And then eventually the lineup changed to have Dave Hamblett on the drums, and in place of those saxophone players, it has Daisy Watkins on viola, Nick Sigsworth on violin, and then we've got Kieran MacLeod on trombone, Alaric Taylor's on the trumpet, Paul Trippett, who was actually with us right at the beginning back in 2011 on the bass, and then myself. And I've met those people over the years, the majority of which have just come across at gigs and gone and introduced to myself too. And then Alaric Taylor's an unusual one because I actually met him at Imperial College where I studied science, so he actually did science as well. And we played together for quite a long time before that band came together. Very interesting. I must say that the whole band represented on this album, this this album offering, from the horn section right through to the welcome addition of the live strings, all threaded together with your engaging piano playing. So it definitely works, the change that you made.
Thanks. That's great to hear.
Was there a spirit you were trying to capture with this album, or did it just unfold organically?
There is a certain spirit, yeah. I think there's probably a combination of both of those things. There were definitely a bunch of unplanned things that happened by combining these musicians together. They've not played together as a group before this band, but I think that probably we're trying to capture a spirit more than put a bunch of people together and a lineup together that hadn't been tried before and see what would happen. So I'd say like that the spirit is of kind of unsurprisingly, it's a mix of the various influences that I've had over my life for music. And I'd say with this band, the most important things for that are influences that come from British jazz in the last few years. People like Tom Corley and Kit Downs, who I've spent a really long time listening to and digesting their music and understanding how it works. Mixed with an appreciation for quite cinematic music and like the rich textures that you get from orchestral music. But I think if there's a closest spirit or example of other music whose spirit that I've tried to capture, it would probably be Kit Downs's. There's certain compositions of his which have a very like romantic and pretty quality to them, which I think is probably, if you want to say, the single most prevalent spirit that has gone into this. It's probably that.
So that basically answers my question of influences. You would say that as a major influence then on your...
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, both Tom Corley and Kit Downs that I mentioned. I'd also point out that Richard Fairhurst, who was my piano teacher for a long time, had an unbelievably big influence when I was a lot younger, and I used to listen to his music and transcribe it and work out how all the chords worked, and that was a hugely formative experience. But then you should definitely mention some of the like American pianists as well, like Brad Meldown, Keith Jarrett, and Herbie Hancock, that I've put a lot of time into listening to.
Wonderful. The best prize I can give this selection of songs is that on each listen I fall in love with a different track, be it the inviting opener, Alex's song, through to the passive meditational Tides. What tracks from the album do you have a particular affinity to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I think that the first two are the ones that are like the most like shouty about their character. In terms of like Alex's song, has got a very clear melody. It's got like this riff, which is probably the most catchy part of the album. Henna also is like very loud, like very clear stated melody and theme and very clear stated character to it. But I actually think that the ones that I particularly like the song Steam, which is like towards the back end of the album, and one that we don't shout about a lot. But I think that's got that's based around an idea which I think is pretty unusual, but I think is probably like one of the most original things that we've got there. It's both got a set on a completely new sequence of chords that I've never heard anywhere else before, and like a melody which I think is pretty well original to me. But yeah, I definitely like to say that's one that I'd love to hear like people listening to that and saying they like that one.
Fabulous. Have you been composing since you started playing piano?
Yeah, pretty much.
What age?
So I started at I think it was age 9 that I started playing the piano, and I did like the traditional syllabus stuff to begin with. But all the while I was like trying to transcribe in pop music that I listened to and try and mess around with that. So yeah, pretty much from the start.
You're playing here tonight at the Stables Milton Keynes. Are you equally at home engaging with a live audience as you are in the recording studio?
I think so, yeah. I think I am. I do very much like playing for a live audience, and I think we all do. And it's really nice to actually like be able to talk to people and like ask them about what they thought of the music and that kind of thing. Yeah, I really like that.
What next for Scrapbook? Any plans to tour Europe after the remainder of your UK dates?
There are no specific plans to do that, but I would really like to do that, and it just takes a bit of work to make that happen. But I'm very interested, yeah.
Thank you for your time, Angus, and looking forward to this evening.
All right, thank you very much.